Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 3 of Woodburn Accountants and Advisors webinar series on doing business in China successfully. Today's topic is 5 reasons to switch your company to a China LLC. Before we begin today's presentation, I just want to go through a couple of admin slides with you. The use of a VPN may be required by people based in mainland China due to the wonderful and gorgeous Great Firewall. I am also currently on a VPN, and this may cause some technical issues along the way. Please don't leave the webinar if there are technical issues, especially if it's from my side. I will be returning as soon as possible to complete the presentation. Now, once you launched your session today, you should have been prompted into how to set up your audio. You have the option to choose your computer audio, which for all of you, that will be the cheapest option. Or if you're having extreme technical issues and you can't hear anything, then you do have the second option of using a mobile or landline to dial in. If you use the latter choice, this is what's going to pop up. If you click the telephone option, there'll be a number to dial, an access code, and an audio PIN. If you are based in mainland Europe, there will be a number for your jurisdiction available to you. Unfortunately, GoToWebinar doesn't have numbers for Asia as of yet, so in that scenario, you'll have to dial a European number. Apologies for that. In addition, if you have any questions or comments, please don't be shy. Add them into the questions section of your control panel, which is highlighted here on this slide. We will be having a 10 to 15 minute Q&A at the end of today's presentation. I will be primarily answering the questions asked on our registration form. And obviously, if we have time, I will move on to any questions that are asked during today's presentation. If we don't get to those questions, please don't leave the webinar. I will be answering you one by one immediately following the presentation. Now, if you don't have time to stay on for obvious reasons, like this is running too long and I'm chattering too much, then don't worry. I will be answering your questions by email directly to you. Now let's test the system. If you could all click on the raise your hand button in your control panel, that will let me know that you're listening in and you can hear me. If you could re-click those buttons, the hand will then disappear and I'll know that you're even listening more to me, which is a great way to start today's session. So let's begin. If you did not join us for the last 2 days of our webinar series, allow me to introduce who we are. Woodburn Accountants and Advisors is specialized in inbound investment to China and Hong Kong. We establish, manage, and administer companies in both those jurisdictions to meet our clients' specific requirements, which include market entry, cross-border investment, tax optimization, and corporate restructuring. Our clients are international companies focused on inbound Asia investments, primarily with a focus on China and Hong Kong. And the strategy of our clients varies. Either they are looking to manufacture in China, export from China, or sell, distribute into China, as well as provide a variety of services locally. They range from startup, small, medium-sized companies, all the way up to multinationals and publicly listed firms. Small disclaimer, today's presentation is a general overview for everyone. Whatever category you fall into that I just highlighted, this presentation should guide you and aid you in terms of what you're looking to do in the Chinese market. Now, obviously, if you're looking to have answers for your specific needs or your specific case, don't hesitate to contact me. I'd be happy to give you a free consultation. A little bit about myself. My name is Kristina Koehler-Coluccia. I'm the head of business advisory at Woodburn Accountants and Advisors. Since 2003, I've been advising clients on their market entry and expansion needs within the Chinese mainland. Probably 2 points I would highlight about myself. I've learned a great deal of patience in terms of living and working in Shanghai over the last 15 years. And I've learned to also have an eye on detail. Both things which, quite honestly, are must-haves to be able to operate and survive in mainland China. Now, the goal of today's presentation is really not for me to instill fear in anybody in relation to their China business or what they're looking or planning on doing. My goal today is to inspire you and motivate you to know that there is help where you need it, and you don't have to go to China on your own. So let's begin with the agenda for today. So as I mentioned, the title of today's webinar is 5 Reasons to Switch Your Company to a China LLC. And as I highlighted in yesterday's webinar, an LLC can either be a WOFE, a FICE, a JV, any limited liability company formation. I've highlighted on the agenda the 5 reasons that we're going to be going through. But before we begin, after each webinar session, I provided everyone with a big tip for the day. And I just want to recap what those big tips have been thus far. On Monday, it was to create your business plan, create your budget. And if you're already in the Chinese market, continue to create your budget on an annual basis and update your business plan based on what you've experienced and what your long-term strategy is going to be. The big tip from yesterday was make your life simple. Don't overburden yourself with complex structures and complex issues that you're creating already at the start of your market entry into China. And today, it'll be a surprise to see what my big tip of the day is. So let's begin. You've arrived in China and you went the route of establishing a representative office, which in today's world I would probably advise you against, depending really on what stage you're at in your China journey. Now, the proven draws for a representative office is that it's easier to set up than an LLC. It has minimal tax requirements, not tax optimization requirements, but minimal tax requirements from a compliance perspective. You have 100% ownership and you've got limited commitment. Now, why then, if this is so easy, do so many companies each year swap the safety of the representative office for speculation into an LLC, either in terms of setting up in the free trade zone or on mainland onshore? And simply put, it's a logical progression of any successful business. Let's face it, right off the bat, a representative office is something that you would do for prudence. You want to be safe. You want to protect your investment. You want to protect yourself if you are the entrepreneur. It might be for political reasons. It might be to be cautious. You might be considering yourself wise in taking the whole process slowly. Let's face it, most foreign invested companies, they currently liaise with about 3 to 4 of the biggest cities in China, primarily Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. Inbound investors, they can hop on the fast track to launch, a representative office via pre-packed license, employee visas, corporate bank accounts. Basically, this paradigm works well for those who really want to test the market and test the climate. However, as veterans may attest, and I am one of those, in my history in China, I did start off in a representative office, and within 2 very short years realized what a waste of time that was. I had that own experience myself, that a time comes when you need to expand quickly. There is a call for growth, and the only way to do that is via an LLC. But let's face it, the expert in anything was once a beginner. And after 15 years, I do consider myself an expert within the area that I've been working in for 15 years, which is corporate services. I did start right from the beginning, and like I said, I did start with a representative office, but quickly moved on. Now, today we're going to look at how you can graduate, how you can move on from a representative office, or why you should move on from a representative office to an LLC. And I call this actually really graduating from high school and entering college, because in China, you never end your education. You learn something new every day. So let's start for the first reason, which is really the most logical reason. It's necessary for growth. After some time as a representative office, your company may be able to expand in some shape or form. And one of the biggest draws of China is really its deep, diverse, and dynamic economy. You may be focused on only Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou, and after a period of 2 years, you realize what potential there is in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Representative offices are ably positioned to tap into this wealth, but will invariably find their growth potential limited by clear-cut rules on staffing, office, and interaction with the mainland. These three things are really critical because this is where you get limited. It's employees, office space, and interaction in terms of bidding for projects. By their nature, representative offices confine firms to particular commercial buildings, so you can't really go into a location that will actually suit your business. Representative offices don't allow you to trade, whether you're trading in goods or whether you're trading in services. You'll always have to use an intermediary to help you fulfill those transactions. And obviously, one of the key things that I think prevents people from taking that step to go into an LLC is that it's cumbersome. It's, and I will highlight this on a later slide, it's not an easy process to go from a rep office to an LLC. And I'm going to relate this to the following. It's like as a woman, you get married and you're making a decision whether to take your husband's last name or not. The fact that you have to go through tremendous amounts of paperwork to take your husband's name, nowadays that's deterring most women from ever getting their husband's name. It's the same in China. With the amount of bureaucracy and paperwork that's involved, it's preventing people from taking that opportunity to expand and grow just because of paperwork. So I want to take this presentation today as 2018, if you are a representative office, now is the time to consider the switch. Change your perception, and this counts for a lot, particularly the perception that your partners will have on you, your clients will have on you, your suppliers will have on you, your employees will have on you. Consider it. Reason number 2, it enables diversification. Your representative office growth might mean diversifying into new products, services, or sectors. You've seen the opportunity that exists for your category, your sector, your industry. For mainland Chinese companies, doing so is an easy administration. They can easily go from being a cost center to actually trading. As a representative office, it's impossible. You legally cannot do it. You are caught out from that. And the biggest issue is that if you are in momentum, you're in that driving lane and you're speeding up, the fact that you're a representative office, you are halted by a brick wall from moving any further. Whereas if you had started with an LLC, you would have been able to continue that momentum. And the main reason behind this is the fact that representative offices have a limited and predetermined business scope. And as I highlighted yesterday, I'm going to emphasize 3 words once again. Representative offices can only communicate, cooperate, and facilitate. They cannot negotiate deals. They cannot provide physical on-the-ground services or trade in goods. And that also includes samples, where that, for some of you, that might have seemed like a gray area. So the only foolproof way for a rep office to diversify is to turn itself into an LLC and re-register. And only once the setup is complete and a license is granted for you to do what you want to do, you can proceed and you can diversify. And on the biggest plus side, it means you no longer have to use an intermediary to help you transact. The third reason is that it unlocks further recruitment. And again, as I highlighted yesterday, a representative office provides a lot of limitations. So as we all know, or I hope we all know, to live in China, a foreigner, a foreign person, i.e. a person without a mainland Chinese passport, needs to be sponsored, either based on the ownership of a business or an employment contract with an employer in China. It's a very common hurdle. Where representative offices have a further disadvantage is that ROs may only hire 4 foreign employees. So if your goal or your business requires you actually to have larger amounts of foreigners on staff because of their talent capability that you cannot find locally, you are limited with a rep office of only hiring 4 of them. Only 4 visas, residence visas, will be provided. In addition to all of this is the fact that a representative office requires you to use a labor dispatch agent to employ all the foreigners. And what this actually portrays to potential employees that you want to hire is that you're not committed to the market. You're restricted from growing because you're only limited to 4 visas for foreigners, and you have to use a labor dispatch agency to do the employment. Why are you constantly restricting yourself through this type of structure? The biggest issue, again, comes with the fact, and this happens to almost 90% of all companies in China. You're on the road, you're driving, you're speeding up, you're building momentum, and all of a sudden you got a brick wall right in front of you and you can't move further. You're stuck. And this is really where you want to have started with an LLC or quickly switch to an LLC so that you have the freedom and the opportunity and the control to hire whom you like and to hire them directly with your own employment contract terms and conditions. The fourth reason is really specific, and it's geared to companies that are bidding on government contracts. Now, for me, I think this is quite a huge point because this is where I've seen big changes in the Chinese market. The 13th five-year plan came out, and there are a lot of interesting industries and sectors that are being promoted and being pushed by the Chinese government. There's innovation, there's green development, there's the Belt and Road Initiative, construction projects, etc., etc. The country is full of opportunity for foreign investors to come in and take advantage of these new industries and sectors that are being built within mainland China. The issue is that a lot of these projects require government tenders. And again, in about 90% of the cases, if you are a representative office in China, you will be unable to bid on a government project. Why? Because it shows the government that you are not committed to the project. It also shows the government that if they sign with you, what actually prevents you from leaving that project right in the middle and exiting the rep office. It gives them fear, it gives them worry that you're going to just leave because the rep office gives you that ability. Whereas if you are a limited liability company, and knowing that it takes 2 years to close down a limited liability company, it gives a bit more security for the government when you're tendering on a project. So be aware of that. If you are in an industry or in a sector that you're looking to provide bids on government projects, a rep office won't be suitable for you from the beginning. And if you already have a rep office, think now about changing, because this is probably why you haven't been able to win projects in the past. The last reason is that it's all about potential. China's economy is a growth machine. It really is. And I would say for a very small percentage of you, it might not be a market for you now, but at some point it probably will be. a representative office may be suitable for businesses looking to establish a short-term presence in China. They don't need to generate revenue. They're not looking to expand on their resources. But what they're forgetting is that China is a growth machine. It truly is. And if you see it playing even a small role in your company's future, then moving from a representative office structure to an LLC, it is the game changer. It's gonna be what pushes your company even further. So be aware that there is tremendous, tremendous potential in China. And you can only garner that potential if you are in the form of an LLC. So how do you do it? If you are a representative office today, how do you change your status? Now, I did highlight in yesterday's webinar because there was an attendee that raised the question. Can I just convert? Or you're making it sound so complicated. So I thought in today's presentation, I'd actually highlight to you why it's complicated. But I also want to highlight to you that this is just bureaucracy. This is paperwork, okay? What I'm highlighting to you on this slide should not be a reason for you to not go forward with changing your status. So reason number one is the fact that you cannot convert. So what do you need to do is you need to find a second office space. And this is probably the area where this will arise additional cost for you. But you need to now then make a analysis whether this additional cost is really it's just a small impact in your future growth or whether it's really going to affect you. So what you need to do is you need to find a second office space. My suggestion would be to go with a business center that's in the district where your rep office is already established. You will be required to sign a 1-year contract, which probably sounds extremely daunting at this moment in time, but let me explain that 1 year. Because that 1 year is almost your entire time frame to change your status, and I'll explain why. My second recommendation would be to change the registered office address of your rep office to this new location. All right. So what you're doing is you're going through an application process, again, just paperwork, to change your rep office registered address location from the old office to the brand new office, which is in the business center. Okay. You're going to then use the old existing office space to register your new limited liability company. One of the documents that will be required for the application of the LLC is the lease agreement. So you will have to sign a new lease agreement with your landlord, which probably will require some form of negotiation because you will need that document to register the company. You will need additional documents from your landlord as well, which is why I say it's kind of a negotiation process. You then begin your LLC registration process, which if you're a consulting company will take about 6 months. If you are in trading and manufacturing, it can take anywhere between 8 and 12 months from start to finish. Now, one important note that you need to keep in the back of your mind is the following. Your employees are still going to be based in this old office space. And this is where you've hit now a gray area in terms of operation because they are legally employed by the rep office, but they are sitting inside an office where an LLC is going to be registered. It's a gray area. It's not 100% legitimate. Quite frankly, there's no other way around it. Otherwise, you're moving all the employees to the new location. It gets very, very, very messy, and then you probably have to move them back. That's really what you want to avoid because that's high cost. Now, once your business license is established, once your business license is issued, bank accounts have been opened, trading licenses have been issued, Capital has been remitted. It's only at this point that you should be transferring your employees and transferring your assets. This is a really critical point because I've had many clients not listen and transfer their employees much faster, actually at the point that the business license was issued, because they were in such a rush, but then they didn't realize that their bank account hasn't been opened, they haven't remitted capital, and they have no way of paying the employees their salaries. Right? You want to make sure that everything makes sense, that the salaries now are remitted from the LLC because the employment contracts are with the LLC. So don't go through that route of confusion. The auditors will pinpoint on that at the end of the year, and they will question it, 100% guaranteed on that, because it doesn't match. So only transfer your employees, only transfer your assets once the bank account is opened and money has been remitted to the account, and you have the okay sign from the bank to say, okay, you can pay for things now. It's not a problem. All right? Don't get caught into a situation where you're stuck. And the people then that are affected are your employees. The employees are already going through a transition because they have to sign new employment contracts with the LLC. Okay? That's also a critical point. And most employees will raise this issue saying, well, from my employee handbook, as well as for my termination compensation or severance compensation, I want to make sure that the length of time I've spent in the rep office is included within the LLC contract. This is really something that's personally important for them. And you have the ability to include that in your LLC contract, saying this employee has worked for me under another organization from 2 years ago, from 3 years ago. All right? And this will just give a level of security to your employee that, you know, their full length of time within the group of organizations is being taken into consideration. All right? So, the LLC is established. Employees have been transferred, signed new employment contracts, salaries can be paid. Transfer of assets. By assets, I am talking about furniture, computers, anything that would be actually in your assets book. Obviously depreciated, and you have to go through a procedure to sell those assets to the LLC. And this is just internal requirements. But a key point here is when you're creating your budget for your LLC, you want to make sure that the amount that has to be transferred to the rep office, it's included within your registered capital. Okay? And I apologize. I'm going into detail here because there's a lot of things to think about when you're doing this change of status from rep office to LLC. But it's extremely important that you understand all the details to understand the bureaucracy involved, what you need to know from a payment, cash flow payment stance. And one other thing I haven't highlighted yet is the tax component. When you transfer your assets, you're actually selling your assets to from the rep office to the LLC. The LLC has to pay for it, and on that transfer there will be VAT, value-added tax. So you will be incurring that as well, and that has to be then paid to the tax bureau. Once all of this is done, your LLC is good to go. You're ready to grow. You're ready to move forward. But now you got to start the process of the rep office closure, which is still located in the business center location. Now, why did I tell you earlier that the 1-year contract should not be something that you worry about? Because let's think about it. To set up the LLC, it takes approximately 6 months, minimum. Okay? That's just the setup. But then you need to transfer the employees, you need to transfer your assets. We're adding on already at least 4 to 6 weeks to handle that process because you need approvals, etc. You have to transfer the employee handbooks, etc. Okay? Then, in your rep office, you've got to terminate all supplier contracts. So this could be the lease agreement. This could be the telephone system. This could be broadband system. Any supplier contracts you sign, your FedEx contract, your courier company contract, all contracts need to be terminated. Now, you may have to pay a slight penalty fee for terminating the business center contract earlier, but I can tell you, if you're planning on setting up a trading company, which most companies are looking to do in China, you're looking at a time of establishment for the LLC of at least 8 to 12 months. So that 1-year contract will be completely filled by that end. And what I've seen is most companies asking for month-to-month extensions after that 1 year. With the rep office closure process, terminate all supplier contracts, and then you have to begin the audit closure. The audit closure, you need a CPA firm to come into your company, look at the last 3 years of your rep office's operations to make sure there are no outstanding tax liabilities, social insurance amounts that have to be paid to employees. They look at every single detail for the last 3 years. That audit closure report will then be submitted to the tax bureau. The tax bureau takes about anywhere from 3 to 9 months, has been my experience, closer to the 9-month time frame for them to review and to give you the go-ahead that either you have to pay a small amount of tax in terms of outstanding liability or no tax at all, and you can move forward. Okay, so we're talking about lengthy procedures, and obviously you have an outsourced provider who's going to provide you with all of these steps and handle all of this background work. But obviously in your mind, you're thinking, I'm still in this RO closure process. Once the tax bureau gives you the go-ahead that everything is A-OK, you can then return your your registration certificate for your rep office, and then you can also close down your bank account and send back the funds, the balanced amount that's on that account, back to your shareholding company. Now, I truly apologize if I instilled fear in people with this whole process and the complexity. I don't know how else to explain the step-by-step procedure without it actually sounding complex. What I want to highlight through this process is a few things. The first is, don't let this deter you from expanding and growing. If you do have a rep office today, don't let this instill fear in you. This is all just paperwork and procedures. And yes, you have the additional cost of the business center, and you have to pay a provider to help you with all these registration processes, etc. This is just a small portion of what you could potentially gain from being an LLC and the growth that you can experience in the market. The second is this is all background procedures. This is all administrative. Hopefully, if you're using a good service provider, whomever that might be, whether it's a CPA firm, whether it's a corporate service provider, whether it's a lawyer, they're doing all of this. They're actually doing every single step for you. You're just, in the background actually hearing updates. Obviously, the transfer of employees is a negotiation step you have to do on your own. You have to talk to your employees. And what I would really like to highlight here is don't do that talk from overseas. Okay, because it does instill a little sense of instability for an employee to go from a rep office and to go to a limited company. You really want to be on the ground in front of these guys and say, this is our growth strategy. We have to be an LLC, and we're going to transfer you guys over. There's going to be no layoffs. You're going to continue our working relationship with no issues. All right. You will have, I'm sure, some employees that will be greedy and will use this opportunity to negotiate for higher salaries. So that is something you have to deal with. But it's also something, if they are greedy, to know whether you want to keep them on or you don't want to keep them on. That's something that you'll have to base that decision on. So keep this all in mind in terms of the process. If you don't have any structure in China yet, I hope this slide alone has deterred you from setting up a representative office. Because like I said, there is potential on the market. there are growth opportunities for you by being an LLC. And maybe today you are a cost center for your LLC. Who knows? In 12 months, 24 months, you may not be, and you may be wanting to generate revenue locally. So keep that all in mind. So what's the big tip, or my big tip for today? My big tip for today is 2 words: freedom and opportunity. Life beyond the representative office is full of freedom and opportunity to help you grow your business locally in China. It will help you to build the momentum, maintain that momentum, and grow. And perhaps for those of you that do have rep offices locally, perhaps 2018 is your year to really hop on the bandwagon and change your status from a rep office to an LLC. So I want to highlight, and I will be giving you a full summary of my words that I use in the top tips for today. But I just, we're halfway through the webinars, and I just want to highlight the 5 words that I hope you've been learning in the last 3 webinars for doing business in China successfully. Create your business plan. Create and maintain your budget. Make sure those 2 documents are updated frequently, at least annually. Choose a structure and a system that is simple for you. Don't overburden yourself. China is complex in itself. You don't want to make it more complex for you. And think about how China can offer you the freedom and the opportunity to grow and build your business. All right? Business plan, budget, simplicity, freedom, and opportunity. Okay? This is really what doing business in China means, especially for startups and for small, medium-sized companies. All right, I went through that very quickly. I'm very surprised. We actually have another 20 minutes till we hit the 1 hour mark. So there are a couple of questions that came in. Thank you for those. I do have 2 questions that I first want to highlight from the registration form, so we'll get into that. So the first question is, could we not just go to the government and say we are expanding from a rep office to an LLC and then just remain in the same office space? It just all sounds so cumbersome. Wouldn't it just be logical to go straight to the government? That would make perfect sense, quite honestly. But unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. Now, by all means, I would be thrilled to go with you to the Administration of Industry and Commerce, have a sit-down meeting with the guy, with the officer, with the official, and say, look, we want to expand. We want to stay in China. We're committed to the market. We want to expand. We want to grow. And now we want to move from a rep office to an LLC. Could we bypass the bureaucratic steps and just stay in our office, submit our application? By all means, we can do it. I have absolutely no issues in having that meeting, organizing that meeting, scheduling that meeting. I have never had a positive outcome from meetings like that. They will tell you to go the bureaucratic route, unfortunately. But yes, it would make absolute sense if you could do that. Now, what about, so the second question is, what about if the LLC is going to be located in a different city from the rep office? We wouldn't need the same office space, so how do we go about doing this? If your growth strategy in China is actually to move to a different city, fantastic, even better yet. You do though get into certain complications. And let me explain. Let's say your representative office is located in Guangzhou, and you believe that with an LLC, you'll have better growth opportunity in Shanghai. Not a problem. You just set up the company, the LLC in Shanghai from day one, and move it on there. What you'll probably run into difficulties with is moving your employees, So you'll have to understand from their perspective whether they would want to relocate from Guangzhou to Shanghai. What I've seen in my experience is that most people, their families are in that location. That's why they're there. So, and by families, I mean extended families, parents, etc. So, a relocation would not just mean me and my family. It's also extended family, which makes things obviously more complicated. And if they are from that city, then probably it's home to them, and they wouldn't want to relocate. So, one of the complications could be building up a new team in Shanghai and how to handle that. The transferring of the assets is not an issue. I guess it would just be a logistical issue in terms of what are you actually going to do in terms of moving staff over, moving stuff over, furniture, computers, etc., from one city to another city. You'd have to go through a logistics company. But by all means, if you want to move into a different city, it wouldn't affect you in any way. So the question that actually came in is in relation to our previous webinars. I haven't uploaded the videos, the recordings of those webinars yet, but I will be doing that by the end of the week. So please just be patient. You'll be getting all the PowerPoint presentations, and you will be getting the recordings. Just hang on your hat, and I'll get that done. That is all for today. I'm letting you all go more quickly than I have done in the previous days. Tomorrow is a pretty big webinar on 10 reasons why companies have not been successful in the Chinese market. These are my own 10 personal reasons in terms of what I've seen and why companies haven't been successful. So if you're interested in joining that webinar, by all means, please register. On Friday, we're having a webinar on 4 reasons why you can't gain momentum with your margins and why your profit is disappearing. So again, by all means, register for that event if that sounds interesting to you. Like I'm highlighting, if you're interested for a free consultation on your specific needs, by all means, don't hesitate to contact me. Happy to offer that to you. Also, we try to publish on a weekly basis an e-newsletter. It's free of charge. Currently, it's been on all of our publications that we publish on a weekly basis, so we'll always have a new publication that's released every Monday. So if you're interested in subscribing, it's free of charge. Just go to our homepage, add in your email address. Alternatively, follow us on social media. We're quite active on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and all the recordings from this week's webinars will be uploaded to YouTube as well, so you can review them or forward them to people who you might think are interesting. And we're also on a German platform called Xing. In case you're German, don't hesitate to follow us on that. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to see people coming in every day for the last 3 webinars. So thank you very much for your loyalty. I take it as a real compliment. And I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Have a great afternoon or a great morning wherever you might be located. And I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Thanks a lot, and see you soon.